Okay, I would like to introduce and welcome Sarah Eli, who is here to speak about what else is there to say about walking. She started the UMRA Walks Shared Interest Group and has been the coordinator since its beginning. The walking group, as many of you know, meets on Friday for planned walks, and we have lots of walkers who really enjoy it. How many have partaken of the walking? So we have quite a few here that have enjoyed the walking. Sarah is an executive coach with Michigan Medicine and facilitates professional development seminars. She most recently facilitated the U of M UMRA board retreat that we had 2 weeks ago. Her background is organizational development and training, working at Ford Motor Company and the University of Michigan. Sarah has put together a team about walking and walking in Ann Arbor. And Sarah will introduce her co-presenters, but we would like to welcome you and your team, Marianne down there at the end, I believe, and Brittany next to her, and Erica Smith, and our own UMRA member, Leah Robinson. So welcome, Sarah, and thank you, and I will let you do the rest.
Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be here, and even made much more so by who is joining today's discussion. So what else is there about walking that we can say? We know you know how. Okay. So we are challenged to add essence to something, whether you are in this room or you are in the Zoom room today, or the Zoom room by recording later on, to add to either things that you know that will affirm that you know those things and that it hasn't changed in this world that changes so quickly, and perhaps add some nuggets of things that you don't know. I will not introduce each of the people because you will get to know them by what they're speaking about in terms of their place on this topic of walking. But I want to especially welcome each of them, as Pat did, in terms of Lee being one of our walking members and a UMRA member as well, for just about a year. Yeah. And then Brittany, Erica, and Marianne, who have just been so fabulous to work with, and energetic and technically competent, which is just wonderful in my world. And they can tell you more if they wish, because they're going to speak to the programs that they do. So you'll know exactly who they are and why they're here. Here's what we'll be doing today. We're going to start with a very rapid review of something that I did. I just took on to distill what I could from medical websites through Google Scholar, as well as websites for retirement and walking, quality of life in retirement, and so on. So I took an opportunity to distill what were the top things that most, if not all, websites, whether they were medical or quality of life, had to say about walking and the benefits. So that'll be very brief. And then we're going to hear from the Ann Arbor Parks and Recreation Department about the expansive programs that continue to evolve and expand within this city that have to do with walking. And what I'm going to invite you to think about is that what they say is about Ann Arbor, but it opens to reveal what is going on around this country, no matter where we are, whether we live rurally, in a small town, or in a larger town. Counties, cities, state parks, Audubon societies, there is so much walking out there for us to do that it takes just a simple inquiring into Google for the place that we are either living and the city, county, state, or when we're traveling. We can also hook our wagon onto their bandwagon and enjoy some programs out there that have to do with walking and more. So we really welcome them as a microcosm of what's going on to increase the quality of life in retirement around the country. We're living in a lucky age for that. And then last but not least, some tidbits from the UMRA walking perspective. I've invited Lee, who has some perspective. She did not tell me a thing she was going to say, so I stand by none of it. But she's developed something that she thought was useful to share in terms of the experience of walking. And then we open it up to all of you, and I hope that you will embellish and add and share perspectives, experiences, ideas about walking as well. It's coined a Q&A after the Learn and Grow, but it's really a forum to learn from each other. So that said, we just want to take a moment to ask, we're going to be talking about walking, but what about you? If you would, for just a moment, just think back to childhood or teens. 15 seconds, what comes to mind first? What's a walk or a place that you walked, whether it was once or regularly? What's a place that pops in your mind as a memorable walk as a kid or as a teenager? I even see some hands. People are so eager to share. So yeah, let's take 3 hands.
We always walked to church.
You always walk to church.
Nice. We were a Blackenham, Southport Springs.
Yeah, cool.
To school.
Yeah, probably the white gloves and the whole 9 yards, walking to church back in the
That was just
60s.
Easter.
Anybody else? Pops into mind. Sue.
Walking the sand dunes of Lake Michigan. I grew up in Lake Michigan. Our weekends were always nice.
Walking the sand dunes of Lake Michigan. Yeah, as a person who lived nearby and also walked them on the weekends, the sand dunes. Good exercise. Wow, lovely. Anyone else? One more? Yes. Hello.
A lot of us walk to school.
Who walked to school? Is it?
Miles up.
It is so true. We were the walking to school generation, weren't we? Walking to church. And then if you grew up in Michigan, you had lovely places to walk. By inviting all of us to think about that, I just hope that perhaps at the break, you might exchange them at the table or around. Just be curious about memorable walks as children. You might even remember the first time you were able to walk someplace alone. You know, those are big deals. So anyway, here's our next thing, and that is about the benefits of walking. My copious research found that there are, if you really take what's said in expansive ways and great detail, it boils down to about 5 common denominators. And the first 2 have to do with our health. When we're talking about heart health, when we're talking about blood pressure, so blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar as well, coupled in terms of overall health. One is about our heart and the other is about our sugar that affects everything. That walking has been found over and over again, even if it is only a few times a week, as long as your heart is elevated, that is what it has been proven over time. It won't happen the second or third walk, but over time, if you continue a routine of doing it over and over again, that cholesterol will drop. So will blood pressure. I can attest to that fact recently with an elevated blood pressure that I was trying to get down. And that it also helps to lower blood sugar. And my husband is a testament to that. A regular routine of walking will do this over and over again. And then we look again at the physical. Number 3 is that walking can help reduce pain. And that may not be news to you, but it is still being proven over and over again that for people with arthritis, people with lower back pain, of which there are many, that even though it might seem counterintuitive, that walking as little as 3 times a week for 20 minutes at a pace that is comfortable will help the body get strong and the pain overall, I guess, I'm not the doctor, but I just have to think that there's something about the moving and so on, keep moving, that really helps those things, as long as we're doing it safely. And that is what the asterisk is about. That for people our age, one of the things that is always important is sturdy footwear for balance and for foot health. And then the other is, do you need a doctor's input in terms of walking safely? Whether it's for a medical condition or if it is for balance and so on, that a doctor can be advised and would love to hear when patients want to walk and would like to be helpful with that. The fourth and the fifth are really about our mental health, not our physical health, and how important that is for us all as well as we age. That walking boosts mental health, whether we are walking with others or another, or even walking alone. Getting out in the world and seeing people, seeing our environment, is a way of mitigating or helping with loneliness, with depression. Sometimes with those kinds of feelings, it's hard to even get out of the house. But it's been proven over and over again, according to the studies that I read, that helps us elevate our mood when we get out and see what's going on and see faces and people, dogs, birds, etc. And then the last but not least, that walking can promote social engagement, that we might not otherwise know what to do, but to suggest to walk with a friend, low cost. You can exchange ideas on where to walk, and it can also be safer to walk with another person as well, for all kinds of reasons that I won't expound on, because what safety means to you, it is in the literature that walking with others can be more safe. With that, my shtick is done for a few minutes, and I'm going to turn the podium over to Brittany Patton with the Ann Arbor Parks.
Thank you.
Sorry. Hi everyone, my name's Brittany and I'm the director of the Ann Arbor Senior Center. Thank you so much for inviting us today. We have Mary Ann, who's on the end, who's one of my coworkers at the Senior Center, and then Erica, who's right next to her with Gib 365 and the brains behind the Visit Every Park Challenge, which she'll talk about in just a minute. So is anyone familiar with the Ann Arbor Senior Center? Have you visited us? I see a couple of familiar faces and sponsors. I've seen a couple of you this morning at one of our meetings. So it feels really good to be here, especially seeing familiar faces. For those of you who have not been to the Senior Center, we are located in Burns Park, which is between Packard and East Stadium. We're nestled in the neighborhood, and if you ever decide to come visit, which we hope you do, we highly recommend that you put our address into a direction software beforehand, because a lot of people come to visit and they wind up in the neighborhood and think that they're in the wrong place, but that's where we are. It's nice and charming and quiet. So our staff, there's myself, there's Mary Ann and another assistant facility supervisor. We do offer rentals at our facility in the evenings and on weekends. We have graduation parties, birthday parties, bridal showers, baby showers, you name it. And then we since we're part of the parks, we have park operations that maintain our facility and keep it looking nice and snazzy. We work with the parks communications and marketing, so a lot of our programs we get to share on the city parks Gov deliveries that go out every Friday. So even if you haven't been to our center, you might have seen some of our promotions with activities and programs in that subscription. And then we have a lot of community partners that we work with, whether it be nonprofits, whether it be senior living communities. And we're really trying to get our foot out there and meet people and invite them to come and present at our center, just so people can see all of the wonderful different faces and expertise that we have around the community. We actually, on your way out, we have some packets that has a list of all of our different activities and our schedule. So if I go too fast and you have questions about one of these activities, we have a description of each of them that you can take home with you. We have a few different Zoom programs, one being trivia twice a month. We do a Mind Matters over Zoom every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. So whether you are living in Michigan or you're living in a different state, you can chime in and play one of these games with us every week. We have different types of card games. So bridge is our big one. And with that, we have bridge lessons with different levels. We partner with Washtenaw Community College and their Senior Focus program. And so they provide instructors for quite a few different of our programs, including Tai Chi, watercolor, line dancing, which is so much fun. We just started doing it last year, and there were programs going on in the building at the same time, and everyone that could see the participants has joined now. So it's really fun. You have to come and check it out. Strength training and meditation. We do a couple of different types of once a month activities like our drive-throughs, which we started during the pandemic. It was an opportunity for people to drive through our parking lot when we were all masked up and keeping socially distanced, and we'd hand a little goodie bag and get to say hi, just with people not having to get out of their car. But it was so popular that we're still doing them, and instead of driving through our parking lot, people are parking and coming out and sitting down. And yesterday we had a great sponsor that brought lunch boxes. Other weeks we have donuts and fun different sweet treats. So those are really fun, and if you haven't been to our center, it's a great way to get out and meet people and see our location. So, park walks. Are we having Marianne talk? Okay, great. I'll hand it over to Marianne.
Hi everyone, it's so nice to be here today. This was a lot of fun putting together with everyone here, so thank you for having us. I run the weekly park walks program at the Ann Arbor Senior Center, and I've been working there for about a year now, and this program has really been the highlight of my time at the Senior Center. It's been such a joy to put together and to be able to spend this time with our members every week. And this program was inspired by a program that Erica started called A2 Park Walks. And Brittany and I wanted to make a version geared towards older adults and seniors that fit for that group. So what we do is we do a weekly walk. We meet up at one of Ann Arbor's over 162 parks every week, and we do a 1 mile walk. And then we have some socializing time after, where we find a nice spot in the park at a pavilion or picnic table, and we get together and have a snack and socialize and spend some nice time in nature. So one of the things that we keep in mind when picking out a park is we want it to be accessible for everyone, so we look for pathways that are wide and clear, and also we try to keep in mind if there's restrooms, if there's a nice spot to hang out afterwards, and then if there's a good route to do the 1 mile walk. So kind of my process for putting this group together is I go on the A2 Park Finder, which is a great tool that Erica will chat about more later. But it's a really nice way to find different parks in Ann Arbor and easily be linked to that park page. And you can see the history of the park. You can check out the different trails, the different amenities, if there's a facility there. So that's really where I do most of my research when picking out a senior-friendly park. And I also will track the route that I'm going to take ahead of time so that I kind of know I can lead the group confidently, and I'll go on my own ahead of time to walk the route myself so that we don't get lost. But we also have either Brittany or our other assistant supervisor, Heather, takes up the back of the group so everyone sticks together and has a good time. And yeah, I would say that the best part of this group has really been the friendships and the connections that people have made through the group. We have a lot of people that come that live alone or are new to the area and are looking to meet new people. And it's been a real joy to see people making connections together, and people from the group, you know, go out to dinner now and come to other activities at the senior center together. So it's been a really special way for people to make friendships. And I think if you are trying to meet new people, it always helps when there's an activity to do that. And, you know, catch up with one or two people on the trail each week, and then that kind of blooms into a bigger friendship, which has been really the best part. And I would say the walking and the nature and the exercise is kind of a bonus at this point of the group, and so that's been really, really nice. And then just some ideas that we wanted to provide if anyone here or anyone on Zoom is thinking about starting a walking group in your area. We have a little brochure that we put together with kind of our outline of how we did this program, and we'd be happy to share that with you. But a little idea, if you aren't a super hardy Michigander, over the winter months, instead of going out and walking, we did a brunch at the same time that our walk was, just to keep the group together and to keep the group dynamic going and have a social hour during the long winter months. But some other ideas we did think of was doing indoor track walking during the winter, or indoor mall walking is also an option, but we settled on brunch. So that's, you can kind of get an idea of how we roll at the senior center. But yeah, we would be happy to share if you need trail recommendations, you could call us at the senior center. I feel like I have a pretty good handle on, you know, senior friendly park routes, and I'd be happy to share those with you and send you links to I've put together sort of a little directory of our favorite parks from the group. So if you'd like any of that, I'm happy to share. And now I'm going to hand it over to Erica to talk about a couple of her park programs.
Thank you. All right, wonderful. My name is Erica. I also work for Parks, and I supervise Give 365. Has anybody heard of that? Seen anybody wearing t-shirts before? I see somebody. Okay, so Give 365 is the Parks Volunteer and Outreach Program. A lot of people are like, okay, what does that mean? We work with volunteers in all of our parks and do a lot of different engagement things. But today, what I'm going to talk about is the Visit Every Park. And before I do that, I'm going to quiz you guys and see how well you were listening. How many city parks do we have in Ann Arbor? Okay, yeah. Marianne gave that away. Did you know that before she spoke? No, okay. I asked that question. I've been asking that question for years with all the different volunteer groups that work with us. So student orgs, businesses, churches, neighbors. And really nobody ever comes close. Well, I shouldn't say that. The average guess is between 12 and 18 parks. So I was like, people do not know how many parks we have. Ann Arbor, you know, that's a lot of parks. It's over 2,200 acres. A lot of parkland for a city this size, and it really reflects the values and the environmental, you know, kind of goals of Ann Arbor. So with that information, you know, we would always do this Visit Every Park. The staff needed to go because we're always looking for volunteer opportunities that we could do in the parks. And you remember that pandemic a few years ago in 2020? That's when we were like, we need to bring the Visit Every Park forward, because we knew at that time we were looking for safe outdoor spaces, and this was like the best kept secret. Why does not everybody know about all the parks? So that's sort of how the Visit Every Park came in 2020. And let's see, what does my slide say? Okay, so knowing how good walking is for everybody, so not just seniors, our kids need to be outside and moving more than they are. And that's one of the things I'm really passionate about, is getting people into the parks, because you can do many, many things there, right? You can walk by yourself, you can play a sport, you can, people get married, people go on dates, people are, going through something hard, you go into nature. So there's so many, the spectrum of why parks appeal to everybody. And then we know this, but the research just keeps reminding us, like, oh yeah, this is good for us physically, mentally. 20 minutes outside has measurable, impacts if you want to get into the research. So it's the sounds of nature, it's the patterns of nature, all of these things. It's like we're wired to spend more time outside. And when you combine that with walking, it's like, this is great, and it's free, right? And it's like win, win, win. So the Visit Every Park program, we're gonna be raffling off some of our t-shirts, because on the back is a checklist of all the parks. So this is a great way for you to embrace. You can see how many maybe you've been to and how many more there are to see. And it's a great exploration. I should probably, let me see what my next slide is. Oh, there I am. So the program is really simple. It's, you don't pay anything. You don't even have to tell us you're doing it, but we do have a little registration on our webpage if you're interested in it. And you kind of do it on your own. It's independent. The Park Finder was mentioned. I think my next slide is about that. But really, it's just a way to, the program is meant to encourage people to get out, make it a bit of a challenge, make it fun. And we've got prizes along the way. So if you let us know you've been to 25 parks, that's when you get the t-shirt. There's some other things there. We know that's not really why people are doing it, but it's fun to do that. And let's see. So the Park Finder is a newer tool for us. It is, an electronic map. We're still trying to update the paper map because that's about 30 years old and it's not very accurate. But for now, we've got a really handy tool. You can just go to your phone or your desktop and Google the Ann Arbor Park Finder, and it'll take you to a map layer. And you can search by park. You can look at it just spatially and see what's around you. And you can also search by amenity. So we're still working on this tool, and I can't demonstrate it here because I don't think the link is working. So you're going to have to do that on your own. But I do encourage you to check it out. And one of the other projects we've worked on the last few years was updating the park information on each individual park webpage. Because before you go, you want to know, well, what's there? Is this, especially like walking distances, or what's the path like? So we did a big project where volunteers helped gather all the information for every park. And so we have a lot of new information on every park, including history and a lot of fun facts to help you know what to expect when you go to a park, how to find it, where to park, what those amenities are. So that's really all I have to say for now. We're going to be raffling a few shirts off later. And if you're interested in volunteering or just being the eyes and ears for a park that maybe you live near, if you're from the Ann Arbor area, or if you know a group and you want to do a fun team building or get together, volunteering, that's what we do a lot of. So thanks for listening, and I'll pass it over. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Erica. Okay, so just a few things if you're interested in making your own walking group. So part of the packets that we've put together, we have a brochure, 1, 2, 3, let's walk, and it kind of goes over the next few bullet points that I'm going to talk about. These are pictures from actual park walks that we've gone on. So 1 mile walks, we like people to know how far they're going. is a little daunting when you show up to a trail and you're not exactly sure how long it's going to take you. So like Marianne mentioned, her going through and walking the trail beforehand, it's nice to have that confidence that you're leading people on a walk that's manageable. We take a peek at the elevation changes. So our walks specifically have little or no elevation changes. That's something that also is, kind of determined in person, and it depends on what your group's activity level is. And then smooth pathways, they're, as you can see, they're like Mary Beth Doyle, they have some actual trails, and then Lily Park has the boardwalk. Some of the parks in Ann Arbor are very fun, but a little bit more adventurous for some people's liking. So those are going to be more narrow trails that may not be even, so we tend to try to avoid those. And then parking, especially when you're doing a walking group, depending on how large it gets, ours has become very large. And so the parking has actually become a question at this point. But just making sure there's enough parking available, and if there needs to be accessible parking, just making note of that before you invite people out. So a couple more photos from our walks. And okay, so the steps for forming a walking group. I think these are pretty transferable to anywhere in the country, minus the year-round aspect, which you can imagine there are other things you can do during the cold months, such as a brunch bunch or mall walks. I think the important piece, like Marianne mentioned, is just keeping the group together and connected. That way, those friendships and those relationships can still continue. You have a safe place for people to not feel the pressure of having to set anything up on their own. So we have three main steps, and the first is to identify the group demographic. So this is going to see, the people in your group, what their activity level is like, their endurance, their experience. Are these people that you're walking with that, walk every week out of the whole year, or is this somebody that's trying to get back into walking? So just being able to balance each of the walkers' experience, and then mobility. So there are some members that choose not to go on our walks just because we know that the trail itself isn't paved. So we're trying to figure out ways to make them more accessible. But if you're wanting to form a walking group, say you're living in a city or a subdivision where you have asphalt or concrete pathways, that's a great way to be able to invite more people to your group. And then the next is determine goals and group needs. So the length of the walk, our walk on Fridays is a mile, but there may be people in your group that are more experienced walkers, and they've been doing it for a while, so their endurance is a little bit higher than others. So you can increase that to 2 miles, 3 miles, whatever you see is helpful for the full group. Elevation levels, you can also alternate. Pathway conditions, and then accessible parking. And then for identifying park trails, there's the Park Finder that both Marianne and Erica mentioned. You can also use Google Maps. So if you're from out of town and you're not, you don't have any trails here that would pertain to you, we've found that Google Maps is really helpful. Marianne's used that a few times when we found that there's some outdated maps that, and it also helps pinpoint an address for a trail or a park that may not have an address. So for directions, and then walking and knowing the trail route ahead of time is also just a way, if you're going to be the leader, just to make sure that you know what kind of obstacles and what direction you need to go. I have to admit, I got lost with the tail end of the group once before, and it didn't feel very good. Thankfully, everyone was very forgiving. And then a couple of other useful tips is just gathering contact information from the group members, including an emergency contact. A lot of times we have people that come as a couple or with a friend and they carpool, which is great because then you have someone there that if something should happen, they know who to contact. But if you're coming alone, just making sure that the person that's leading the walk knows a good resource in case you have a tumble or a trip. And then sending out detailed meeting location notes ahead of time. That's where the Google Maps really comes in handy because you may think you know where a trailhead is, but they're often quite hard to find unless it's a park where you have it right off of the parking lot. And then designating the group leader who knows the walk route, as well as a group member to stay in the back. And then including optional social components such as the gathering at a pavilion after the walk with refreshments, water, and just an open space for people to chat and catch their breath, and then they can be sent on their way. Another thing that I thought is really helpful too is just inviting people that you know to the groups if you're a walker yourself. We found that there are a lot of people that will have come to our senior center for programming, and their spouse or their friends have not participated with us before. And the walking group, it has just been such an easy way for people to connect and not feel like there's too much of a commitment. You drive yourself, you show up, and if you like it, that's great. We are excited to see you next week. But if it wasn't your thing, then you're happy to not come. You're happy to do whatever you want for the next week. So just having that kind of flexibility with people in your group and having kind of a rolling door situation to be very good. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name's Lee Robertson, and my pronouns are she and hers. I am a social worker, and I retired about 2 years ago from the University of Michigan School of Social Work. And before that, I got a lot of tips. I read a lot of books about retirement, how to have a good retirement, right? And how do you do it? My wife had been retired for a while, and so she was sharing some things with me. And I received a lot of good suggestions and advice. All of them said to eat healthy and exercise. I wrote that in caps, right? So this is not my default, okay? It has been a challenge all of my life. My wife, Karen, has really helped me in this area because she loves to be active. And I have walked many miles in the woods with trees with her, and I'm grateful that there'll be more walking in our future. And when we're done walking, I'm really glad that it's over. Right? So when I joined this group last year, I saw that there was a walking group. And I was attracted to these walks because it felt a little less like work to me, at least by advertising. And it really turned out to be true. Now there have been some physical challenges for me, but Sarah has done an amazing job of really tailoring them to all of us. There are what I call the speedy sneaker walkers, and the moderate get your heart rate up walkers, and the meandering looking at the scenery walkers, right? Those are just 3 groups that I've noticed in these walks. I fall somewhere between the moderate and the meandering, depending on the day. But I must be honest that I'm not really aspiring to the speedy walkers, but I'm really glad for their inspiration, right? Yeah. So again, lots of shout outs to Sarah on this because she not only picks paths that are really interesting, but they're inclusive to all. And we're using the word walking a lot, but there are many people who can't walk, right? But they can move, right? And they can move through the use of adaptive equipment, maybe a wheelchair, canes, that sort of thing. So I really have appreciated that these walks have been accessible to anyone who might join us. So if you or anyone you know really has felt like maybe you couldn't do that, I really encourage you to consider it because I think you could. So I'm an extrovert, so walking and talking is really easy for me. And I've met a lot of you on these walks. And, you know, between the University of Michigan and Michigan Medicine, there's a lot of different jobs people have had, right? So I've been just really amazed I've learned so much about different departments and different work from people I've met on the walks. I've been grateful for the walks too, because I also met Sarah and we have a lot in common. She's a social worker, she's a movie buff, and now I can call her a friend. And I think that's so important. And many of us are looking for that. It's a nice, like when I joined a year ago, I didn't necessarily think that, but it's happened, right? So let's see where I'm. They're really intriguing walks. One, we went to Carytown and we learned about how Carytown used to be where the African American community lived and the Underground Railroad. And I didn't know anything about that. It was really a really interesting walk. And then one that really spoke to my heart is, you remember about, I don't know how many, over 10 years ago, when University of Michigan was making a lot of Hollywood movies on their campus, right? So we got this great walking tour of all the places they've made movies, right? And the two folks that were leading it they were telling us all the scoop, like on the movie stars, right? And one in particular was they had a lot of extras on a movie that George Clooney made, and she fainted because it was so hot, and she woke up to George Clooney holding her hand. Right? Hello, I mean, you know, how cool is that, right? I know. So again, I have to say the walks are great, but the brunch is also pretty good afterwards. We heard that down here too. And we've gone to some very lovely places to eat, whether it's brunch or lunch. It sounds simple, but this group does kind of check all the boxes for living a good retirement. I would also add, which I've also heard from others on the panel here, it adds another ingredient, which is social connection. And we really need that as much as we need water and air. Seriously, social isolation is not healthy, right? So there's something really lovely about breathing fresh air in a beautiful place with other people to help us know that we're alive. So there's this Ram Dass is a prominent Harvard psychologist and a devoted Buddhist. And he shared this quote that resonates with me when I think about these walks. He says, "We are all just walking each other home." Our next walk is May 19th. So if you join us, we will be there to walk with you. Thanks.
Well, I couldn't say it better than that. May 19th is coming up, but I do want to broaden out just a little bit to give a verbal rather than a written, as you often see in the newsletter, a verbal, I guess, a theory and practice of Umar walks as it is right now, and it could always change. Here are the nuts and bolts. We walk the last Friday of every month, unless it's a holiday weekend that interferes with that. And so it's important to know the date. That's why, for instance, Memorial Day is swinging us to the 19th this month. We are currently staying within a 10-mile circumference of Ann Arbor. So Ann Arbor is sort of core, since we all commuted here or worked here, no matter where we lived. And so that has been our core, but it takes us to Dexter. We've been encouraged to look at Ypsilanti parks. I use the Ypsilanti Park Finder as well. And although we've not done that yet, because there are differences between their pathways and the accessibility and some of ours right now, that we've pretty much stuck to Ann Arbor and Dexter. But we're waiting for Ypsilanti to finish some paving. So we do have a strong value for pavement only, for the reasons that Lee mentioned. And we have had people that have joined our walks because they just had knee replacement surgery. We've had people come with canes. And if it is, we walk 11 months out of the year. The exception is August. So I just have to say that the spirit of this group, socially, no matter who is there, we have a core group that comes every time. And then we always have people that we have met for the first time, and we have others who come when they can. And so it isn't cliquey whatsoever. And that has just been a real delight to see. But back to the composition of the group, such troopers. I did not do my reconnaissance for a metro park to realize that the metro park only got rid of their snow to a certain part of the pavement, and then it was all snow. And I tend to lead the end of the walk. And then all I see is these people going off through trudge. They did the entire section. We had our boots anyway, but I'm just amazed at how this group, and then people that didn't want to trudge, that's the beauty of it. They just turn around and wait back at their cars. So the way that we've done this is none of our walks have ever been more than 3 miles. Sometimes they're loop walks, sometimes they're out and back. But it means 45 minutes out, 45 minutes back. And if I've only gone 12 yards in 45 minutes and then turned around, that's fine. The whiz kids who blow our doors off when they walk so fast, we see them go out and we see them come back and we're still walking. And that's just great. Everybody is into their own rhythm. I use Pure Michigan, not for UMRA walks, because we have enough local pathfinders here. But I can't say enough about Pure Michigan, if you're traveling within the state of Michigan, to be a place that if you say walking trails or hiking trails, there are also national trail sites that will list if it's mountain biking trails or rails trails, or and that walking is also done on that trail. And so the possibilities are endless in the age in which we're living. And we invite you to join us at any time, or even better, as one of the handfuls of shared interest groups that are within the UMRA, and the hope that these shared interest groups grow. We're walking one time a month. It's possible that we could have another group that walks another time of the month. And I have to give my complete gratitude to the Ann Arbor Parks and Recreation folks that put together that brochure for today. And they didn't even know we had capacity to start more walks. They just want to encourage us to start walks. And so that just that fits beautifully with UMRA's goals. And I thank everybody on the panel, and now we'll open it up. Someone has a microphone. So here we have the opportunity to just raise your hand or stand up or whatever, and either ask questions of anyone or to offer some insights that you would like about walking.
Yeah, I got the first question. It's more for, do you have to be Ann Arbor resident to be part of the Ann Arbor Senior Center?
Absolutely not.
No?
No, you
Okay.
don't have to live in Ann Arbor. We have a lot of people from Ipsy, Chelsea, Dexter, Saline. We actually had one of our members' sisters who lived in Portland join us every week for one of our Zoom activities. So.
I was once asked by a judge how long I had been driving, and I thought it wasn't any of his business, but I said since I was 17. And so he kind of looked at me and said, well, you know, you're probably experienced. But anyway, I had been given a ticket that was not recognized as legal. so I got out of that one. My point is that I know how quickly one's ability to walk for any distance at all starts to abate. You know, it just weakens immediately almost. And so I have begun to walk. Hopefully I can do it every day. But I have lost, I'm one of those who walk to school too. So, yeah. But if recently I had an accident that we had to have that discussion about whether or not I ever drive again. I had just gotten back from 2 trips to Georgia all by myself, and my foot slipped going into the door, my garage. I was in my garage, my foot slipped, and I have a turbo engine, I did have. So it overrode all safety principles, and I crashed into my kitchen, hit a dishwasher that then became a projectile, took everything with it, and went against my brand new refrigerator and other things. So I'm in a bad place right now because it's been 3 months. I got hooked into something that was really bad and nothing happened except for a quick fix. So anyway, my point is this. Is there any walking group? I would love to be a part of it because I can still walk. Some days I can walk for a mile to my doctor's, no problem. Other days I'm in the park and I have to have a bench, every so often. Is there any group that offers a pickup to the point of the walk?
So I'll put it out to the community in the room or on Zoom, if you're Zooming in Ann Arbor area, is that what you're asking? Ann Arbor?
Yeah.
Okay. I do not know of any. I know that there might be though. Anyone? Doesn't look that way.
Well, I used an Uber to get here, so I would be willing to do that.
I would mention on the Ann Arbor Parks,
The websites will have mass transit options, so bus stops, if you're able to take a bus. Many of the city parks are within walking distance. I don't know necessarily the conditions of those sidewalks and whatnot, but that's one option you could look at too, is where can you go by bus?
Yes, and when we walk the U of M campus, for instance, there are people who take a city bus to a spot where they can pick up the university bus and join us that way, so they haven't gotten there in cars at all. So good ideas, and best to you on your recovery and your house. Someone else?
I just want to extol the virtues of using walking sticks. I don't know how many people do, but and I only use a single one, the current one I've had for 23 and a half years. So clearly I was using it when I didn't need it necessarily for age-related conditions. But it's so useful. Not when we think of it stability, but putting some of the work on your upper arms as opposed to your legs, easier on your knees, particularly when going downhill. Just a lot of things like that. So that's just a real positive thing that I'd like to recommend, whether you're even walking on level. It's just useful. And perhaps one of the most interesting things is when I walk by myself, you know, your arm kind of swells up sometimes. Use your walking stick for that. That problem doesn't occur either. So that's just my suggestion.
Thank you. I will add to that in the winter, I walk in Ann Arbor with my snowshoe poles, even if there's no snow on the sidewalks, because it gives me stability. And when I'm out, I don't even switch to walking sticks. I use my snowshoe poles all year long. I'm not wishing for snow when I do that. Yeah. So whatever works, right? Thank you. Anyone else before we break? Anything on Zoom?
No, there's nothing on Zoom.
Some more hands?
He's gonna get his steps in.
My question is, what's the smallest park in Ann Arbor?
I can answer that. And I should say, 162 park properties. That includes nature areas, neighborhood parks, the big ones like Gallup or Veterans Park. But there are a few that you're going to scratch your head going, this is a park? So Depot Park is at the corner of Depot and Main. If anybody ever gets off on Main Street, it's basically a flower bed. I'm not exaggerating. It's, there's a lot of interesting history of how these properties become parks, but that's the smallest. There's some other real small ones like Hanover Square, that's the city's oldest park. A lot of interesting stories. So I would really encourage you when you go to a park, check out the webpage, see what little tidbits are there.
My question is whether you have anything to say about the presence of bicycles with walkers. And, I do feel like it won't deter me from walking, but I think that my little dog and I have been frightened more than once by someone whizzing by without courtesies. And I don't see too many signs or anything to try to remind bikers to, announce explicitly and all of that. So I just wondered if you have any comments on that and kind of tackling that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Most of the parks have shared use paths, so you're going to find bikes, walkers, pets. You're right, there's not a lot of signage, especially for rules pertaining to the path. I don't know if I can fully answer that question, but I know that there's some etiquette that we're promoting within the bike community, and many bikers already, I think, are actively have a set of etiquette to announce when you're coming up on people. There are a couple parks where there are not bikes allowed. Bird Hills is one, but that's has a lot more steep, but very beautiful nature area. So I don't know if Brittany or Marianne has any advice on handling bikes.
Yeah, I could say when that does happen with our group, we tend to try to tell the biker right away, we have a big group, you're going to be coming across a lot more people, like please take it easy, and most people will do so. But yeah, I think that's just another benefit of being with a group is just a larger presence, and hopefully people are respectful of that. So yeah. And the parks are actually working on improving a lot of the trails and pathways to make them accessible. Some for wheelchairs, some just widening the paths. So hopefully that
in turn with the things that Erica and Marianne mentioned, we'll have a little bit more room for everyone that's using the path.
I think that is a benefit of walking in a group is because my experience when we are walking on the Border to Border Trail, which we use a lot, which is a bike path as well, and a rollerblading path, and et cetera, is that if there are people walking together and we're very spaced out because people are walking at their own space, but there's something visually to a biker that slows them down. We haven't had people whizzing by us as a group as I do when I'm in Gallup Park by myself, and they scare me if they don't bell or say something. So yeah, I think that is a benefit of walking with others is, and unfortunately it's not going to be the dog, it's going to be the tall people that are going to slow bikers down a bit, most of them. Others, there were maybe one or two more hands over here before we break. Ooh, raffle time. So while we're doing that, I think there might have been one more hand and then we'll do the raffle.
Who's excited to win a t-shirt? Okay, let's see. I'm gonna have Lee pull out our first one. Three.
Okay, looks like Lee pulled 5659389. I can read it once more. 5. Oh. Yay!
Guys, come on down. I want to see some Price is Right enthusiasm here. All right. How about our next one?
Okay. Winner number 2. Thank you, Sarah. 5659447. You can read it once more. It's 5659447. We have someone? Yay! Come on up.
Congratulations.
And last but not least, it is 5659397. Yay! Come on up. Okay, and the last one is 5659430. Woo! Come on up.
Well, that was a really, really inspiring talk. Are we all ready to go? I think we should form a route around the room. I'm sorry. Anyway, thank you very much, Sarah, for giving the presentation. And thank you for Leah and Brittany and Erica and Marianne. And thank you very much. It was a very interesting, inspiring presentation. Thank you.